What was your lowest point, I guess, up until high school where you learned the biggest lesson?
So when I came out of high school, and at that time, the pathway was the collegiate way for soccer. It's changed a lot since then. Now players come out and they're already almost professional at this time. But I knew that I wanted and kind of had to, if I wanted to continue to play soccer, go through the collegiate path. And while I was a big thing in suburban Detroit and in Michigan, it didn't necessarily translate. I didn't get recruited in the way that kids get recruited nowadays, and I certainly didn't have opportunities flying left and right. So I started getting rejected at a lot of places. I mean, I was wallpapering my room with rejection notices from a lot of colleges, and we started to panic. And I say we because my father got on the phone one day and called Rutgers University out in New Jersey, and he got a hold of the coach and said, "Listen, I got this kid. He's 6'4". He's got decent grades, and for Michigan, he's a very good soccer player." The coach, thank God, we got him on a good day, and he said, can I see him? So my father and I got in a car and we drove 16 hours out to Rutgers University. I had never been to Rutgers University, exit 9 off the turnpike, let alone to New Jersey ever. Mm-hmm. I showed up, we stayed for 5 hours. He looked at me and said, "Well, we're going through a rebuilding year. I can invite you to preseason and I can get you into the agriculture school." Now, I grew up in Michigan, but I did not grow up on a farm. But at that point, I was taking anything that they had. We drove back. And I did everything wrong in terms of picking a school, but it changed everything for me because it was a Division I soccer program. Like I said, it was going through a rebirth, if you will, and there were opportunities for young, inexperienced players like me. So it worked out okay. But my dad, exit 9, he kicked me out of the car, and I fell into a very, very different world at a huge school in New Jersey. And I had to fake it until I made it.
Now, when you get to the college, first of all, I think did you really put the rejection letters up on the wall?
Yeah,
you really did that?
I did, yeah. Because they kept coming, and I said, well, the soccer wasn't having any effect. And I wasn't a horrible student, but the soccer was going to have to help me to do something. And nowadays, you'd be seen, and it was just back in the early 80s or mid 80s, you just weren't seen in the way that you can. YouTube didn't exist even to see things from afar. So it was just a function of the times that we live in. And luckily, serendipity, stars aligning type of thing, it worked out okay.
So when you get to Rutgers campus, because I remember back when I got to college, when I got up to Berkeley, there was a lot of guys coming in saying, like, I'm going to the league. That was like a big thing. Like, I'm going to the league. And I remember, I never even crossed my mind. But that was on their mind. Was that on your mind when you got to college, or was it like, hey, I'm going to do this, get a good education, and go do something else?
Being a professional soccer player was something that happened in that I fell into it. And I did not grow up thinking about being a professional soccer player. My wall, other than the rejection notices, but growing up in high school, was populated with hockey players, so Red Wings players, Steve Yzerman, these types of players, and musicians, Def Leppard and Bon Jovi's and these types of things, and Kiss and Zeppelin and all that kind of stuff. These were my heroes. I didn't have heroes that I could relate to from a soccer perspective, and being a professional soccer player was not something in the early 80s, mid 80s that you aspired to be because you didn't see it happening. So when I went to college and I started getting recognition on a national level, being an All-American and that kind of stuff, and people started noticing, then I started to think about, hey, this could possibly be it. But for an American coming at that time, it's not the way that it is now, and that's a good thing because it's progressed and evolved. But it was a much more Wild West type of existence back then.